Sometimes we forget why we're here. It's easy to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're fading, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Growing up, I had a dream, something no one else could see. Tell me what it means when your faith is falling beneath your knees and you can't breathe. Everything you see reminds you of what you're not or something you won't be. You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business. Not because they wanna do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shame. And that's the reason I'm staying up late, trying to find a way to escape the stereotypes this day and age is making me feel like the only way I'll be happy is getting signed to a label and making money through rapping. I wanna share my emotion because this world is attacking the very principle of life that lets the people be happy. If you don't have a reason to breathe, why even live? These battle scars are impressions of everything that it is.
Don't look like they're fading, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're fading, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Now, if I had a voice that reached 100 million people, I'd tell them there's a reason that we're all created equal. Cause some decide to be great and some decide a sequel to an average person's life is simply what they want to be. So you make your decision, all I know is what I'm given. Won't define the life I lead or the way I dwell in existence. I've seen a greater image on the walls of where I'm living, and the words twisted and scripted remind me of something written. Faith is a gift that is given down to the people. If one believes it, one receives it. It's given if it is needed. Don't ever think you're trapped in a life that you never wanted. Your options are infinite, that's some mathematical logic. I'm not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers and these battle scars on my church. Not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers, these battle scars on my church.
Scars don't look like they're fading, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're fading, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change.
Well, hello everyone. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. Sorry, I've been kind of doing my shows a little bit later. My work schedule's a bit later than it used to be in the past, and I still had stuff to do when I got home. Need some caffeine at this hour. So, all right. What do we want to get started with? I always get disconcerted when there's no comments. Usually there's somebody going, "Hey, I'm first," and Bunchy is freaking out again. I don't know what Bunchy's problem is, but Bunchy is just having a hard time. But anyway, settle down, Bunchy. Settle down, Beavis. So let's do the typical YouTube things. I should set up my restream. And what did I have for dinner? Why? Do I have something in my teeth? You know how paranoid I am. No, I do not. I had crab cakes. Hey JJ, how are you doing? So, I'd been planning on doing this for a while, this particular show. Oh, let me do my YouTube stuff, which I should set up my stream deck for this. I just keep forgetting. But, let's do the YouTube stuff. Where's my first thing? Oh God, they need to make this easier. There we go. Well, the support thing came up first. If you enjoy this type of content, which is very Libertarian Party centric, third party centric, but we also go on to things like we will today, alternative voting methods, please do consider supporting me at Patreon, which is patreon.com/Pink Flame of Liberty. I would truly appreciate it. No one can accuse me of not being a dedicated streamer. And you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and every once in a while, MeWe, when I remember that it exists. I'm Karen Ann Harlos, basically everywhere. I've been more active, I think, on Twitter now than anywhere else because it's been kind of glorious since Muskie took over. And lastly, if you're not a subscriber to this channel, will you please hit subscribe now? I'll wait. Just go and hit it now because it does help the algorithm. And, you know, it gives me a little bit of an ego boost, which sometimes I need. Alrighty. Without further ado, however, we are going to move on to the topic. I got some stuff printed out so I don't forget. I've got the holy book with me because we're gonna cover a little Roberts. That's why I'm also streaming this on Cult of RONR because we are going to cover some Roberts stuff here because Roberts does talk about preferential voting, and preferential voting has come up on the bylaws committee. We're talking about all different kinds, so I figured we'll deal with some of the holy word as well. Now, if you remember, the last time I did an RCV show, I told you, and I might have already reported on this, and I just don't remember. So you're going to hear it again, in case I'm being an old lady and just don't remember. I had said that there was some questions that I had gotten that I think I have covered this, but I'm going to cover it again, that were answered for me by the executive director of RCV Colorado. And that was Mike Seebeck's son actually had asked me this question. If on a ranked choice ballot, could he just rank, say, if there were 4 candidates, number 1 and number 4, and skip number 2 and 3? And I was like, I don't know. Nobody's ever asked me that before. The answer is no. You cannot. So you can't skip 2 and 3. That would kind of defeat the whole purpose. All right. And then I asked, because we have a lot of legislation in place in Colorado for ranked choice voting. We're really way ahead of the curve here. However, the top X poison pill is trying to weasel its weaselly, slimy way into Colorado, which sucks big time. But anyway, I asked in the legislative schema that we have right now in Colorado, I asked the executive director, also in the RCV setup in Colorado, what method is used for tie breaking, random backward or forward? And we did cover backward and forward tie breaking, but I'll cover that again here because it took me a while to get my head around it, and I'm still not so sure I do. And the way you make sure you understand something is to explain it to other people. But this is what the executive director written back to me. She says both of these process questions should be provided for within rules rather than laws because flexibility is needed for changes as best practices are identified in the future. That sounds very much like the difference between bylaws and special rules of order. It says different states have different skipped ranking rules. I used to have an opinion on this, but it's not my hill to die on. The most important thing is that the RCV rules are consistent with other election laws in the state to prevent the success of a sore loser lawsuit. It says that in Minnesota and in most places, the mentality is to give the voter as much of a chance as possible to be heard. If you fail to mark a ranking but have a candidate marked in the next ranking, your vote is counted for the next candidate if your prior candidates have been eliminated. The ballot becomes inactive at the second skipped ranking. So that makes sense. So I guess the answer isn't a solid no. It's if your other candidates have already been eliminated, then your next choice will be counted. And it says in Colorado, however, And I agree with Colorado more than what she says about Minnesota and in most places. It says in Colorado, the mentality is to not put words in people's mouths by inferring meaning. This is consistent with our ballot interpretation rules generally. If you skip a ranking and your prior ranked candidates have been eliminated, your vote in that race becomes inactive. The ballot becomes inactive at the first skipped ranking. It says, similarly, the tie breaking is done however the state breaks ties. In Colorado, it is a coin toss. So, she says there are many different ways to handle ties for different mathematical reasons. I go with what regular people know to be fair, which is a coin toss. And I thanked her and said, in my research, I personally prefer, so far, forward tie breaking. OPA vote uses backward tie breaking as a default, and I don't know why. So, let me see if I can explain this. Backward tie breaking. Say you're in the third round and you have two candidates that are tied and nobody got a majority. Which of those two go on to the fourth round? Well, backward tie breaking, you'll look at those two candidates in the second round. And if one of them was ahead in the second round, that's the one that goes on to the fourth. If they were tied in the second, then you continue to go back to the first. And if they were tied in the first, then you do a coin toss. That's backwards tie breaking. Forward tie breaking, same scenario. You're in your third round and you have two candidates who are tied that are in last place. Who gets eliminated? Forward tie breaking means you go back to round one. And if someone was ahead in round one, they are the ones that move forward. So the difference is between, do you eliminate the candidate who has the least of the two first choice selections, or the one who has the least prior last place selections? So do you favor the candidate that's more favored, or do you favor the candidate that's least disfavored? I preferring the candidate that is more favored. But I can see arguments for both sides, but I personally prefer forward tie breaking at this point, but I'm always open to hear arguments. So I think I do understand it now because I've successfully explained it twice, unless somebody tells me how I screwed it up. Now, I also told you guys that obviously there are no voting systems that are perfect. A lot of people like to point out a lot of flaws in RCV. They aren't as big as the flaws as there are with First Past the Post. First Past the Post sucks. Literally reading pig entrails, I think, is superior to First Past the Post. But I wanted to honestly give you what I think are some legitimate criticisms of RCV, because they're going to come up in an article that I forgot to pull up. Crap, and I don't have Facebook here. Shit, I can't get on my Facebook account here. I'll try to Google it to find it. If not, I'm just going to do it by memory, or we'll cover it in another show. So Roberts talks about some of what I think are legitimate criticisms are for forms of preferential voting. So, it says I'm going to just read here. The term preferential voting refers to any number of voting methods by which on a single ballot, when there are more than two possible choices, the second or less preferred choices of voters can be taken into account if no candidate or proposition attains a majority. While it is more complicated than other forms of voting in common use, and is not a substitute for the normal procedure of repeated balloting until a majority is obtained, preferential voting is especially useful and fair in an election by mail if it is impractical to take more than one ballot. It says preferential voting has many variations. Okay. Now I'm trying to find where it goes to talk about one of the major flaws that I think is a fair criticism. I should have found this before. Okay, here we go. The system of preferential voting just described, and it's describing ranked choice voting, should not be used in cases where it is possible to follow the normal procedure of repeated balloting until one candidate or proposition attains a majority. So Roberts does not favor it when it's possible to do repeated balloting. I'm not so sure I agree, because there are other considerations, such as our conventions, where we're under a time limitation, and doing 5 rounds of repeated balloting, it could eat up a day. And also in public office elections, where a repeated ballot can cost millions of dollars. But anyway, it says, although this type of preferential ballot is preferable to an election by plurality, here's the flaw. It affords less freedom of choice than repeated balloting because it denies voters the opportunity of basing their second or lesser choices on the results of earlier ballots, and because the candidate or proposition in last place is automatically eliminated and may thus be prevented from becoming a compromise choice. And that is going to come up when we're discussing Alaska. But I honestly don't agree with that last phrase in Roberts. I don't think it is typical for someone that it was in last place to become the compromise choice. It's possible, but it's also possible that pigs might fly out of my booty. I do think the criticism that you can't tactically vote based upon knowing what the results of the first round were is a legitimate criticism. But that's only a legitimate criticism if the other option is repeated balloting until someone gets a majority. It is not a legitimate criticism when you're comparing it to plurality. And that is what the duopoly does all the time. They'll bring up this legitimate criticism, which this article I forgot to bring down with me does, as if it's a legitimate criticism as against plurality. The article I forgot to bring down is dealing with Colorado elections. We do not require a majority in Colorado like they do in Georgia. So to bring up this criticism completely ignores the weaknesses of plurality. This is only a valid criticism if you're pitting it against repeated balloting until someone gets a majority. Hope y'all followed me there, because it's a bait and switch that is pulled by the two major parties all the time. And Nathan, tactical might have been the wrong word, because I do think knowing the results of the first and what is realistic, I do think you can still vote your conscience, because your conscience can be informed by what you saw your fellow voters want. So I don't think tactical voting, I don't think the two are mutually exclusive. I don't think voting your conscience in repeated balloting is an opposite to tactical voting. I think the two can coexist. I don't think they coexist in first past the post. First past the post has every criticism in the world that applies to it. So hopefully that showed you that I can be honest about a voting system that I particularly favor, that, it is not perfect. One system that people claim is perfect, but how to get to it can be quite complex, and I don't think people will trust it because you need computers to make sure you're doing it right, is any kind of voting method that is guaranteed to give the Condorcet winner. And the Condorcet winner is, say you have 5 candidates. The Condorcet winner is the one candidate who would win in a head-to-head match against any of the other candidates. And to do that in a multi-winner race is crazy. Ranked choice often does produce a Condorcet winner, but it doesn't always. Okay. And it means head-to-head race and would get a majority, I think. Not all that. I might need to put a pin in it, might need to look up what Condorcet, because I'm learning more and more about that. But I don't think that is something that is practically achievable. Because for me, an ideal voting reform is the best one that's achievable. It is a perfect illustration of don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, or the enemy of the very good. Okay. Now, let's go to Alaska for a second here. Let's take a trip to Alaska. What time of year is it? Is it mostly daytime now or mostly nighttime in Alaska? This time of year, it's mostly day, isn't it? And like come around July. I know around July around July is when it's mostly day. Because I was on an Alaskan cruise for 4th of July, and I remember it was like midnight, and it was still daylight out. Okay. So put that aside. We went over that. This is something I have to show you, but I wanted to read an article here, and this was from the Washington Post. We're not going to read the whole article, but it's a really bad... Okay, it's not a terrible article, but there's some bait switchy in here. Okay? So, the title of it is Opinion. Alaska's ranked choice voting is flawed, but there's an easy fix. The fix they propose is to make it not really ranked choice voting, but to make it cumulative voting. Yeah, it's like, yeah, you can fix it by making it not ranked choice voting. Okay, I got it. It's like using a ranked choice ballot to do cumulative. You'll see when I read this. And as far as I'm aware, cumulative voting wouldn't pass constitutional muster of one person, one vote. Ranked choice has, because in any one round, people only have one vote. This solution he's proposing here is to give people multiple votes. Maybe I'm misunderstanding him, because this seems so like, are you just being dishonest, or are you just not terribly bright, or what's going on here? So I'm thinking, whenever you think somebody wrote something that they pretty much just walked into a wall face first, I don't assume other people are stupid. I assume I must be misunderstanding something, particularly if it got published in the Washington Post. Maybe I'm giving the Washington Post too much credit. So we're going to go through this, and we'll see if you think the same thing I did, that he's just basically advocating for cumulative voting. And what cumulative... a form of cumulative voting, because it's not even real cumulative voting, because in real cumulative voting, it would be like a multi-winner race. So let me give an example, because I advocate for cumulative voting for at-large positions on the LNC. So in the LNC, you have 5 at-large positions. As we saw last convention, if you have a group, and again, I was a member of that group, that is dominating the convention, they are going to win every seat. And if you're a minority voice that doesn't agree at all with the group that's dominating the convention, you really don't have a chance. And I think that breeds resentment. And I don't think it's healthy long-term for an organization. So with cumulative voting, a small minority or several small minorities can band together to make sure they at least can win 1 or 2 seats. So, for instance, with the 5 at-large, it would be like the platform deletion tokens. Each person would get 5 votes. They could cast 1 vote each for 5 candidates, just like we normally do, or they could cast all 5 of their votes for 1 candidate. So a minority group could all work together, cast all 5 of their votes, and each of them in this group, for 1 candidate, and have a pretty good chance of electing someone, or band together with another minority group. And it turns out to be mimicking proportional representation in a way, if people plan properly. It's not as good as a single transferable vote form of RCV voting for at-large, but it's something that's easily calculated by hand. It's just as easily calculated by hand like approval voting. It's very similar to it for the tellers. So let's now go to this opinion piece. Okay, I must be misunderstanding something, because this guy is the ever-sold chair in constitutional law. So he has to realize that giving a person more than one vote probably wouldn't pass constitutional muster, or maybe he thinks it would. I don't know. I must be misunderstanding something, because he sounds like a big brain. It's written by two people who are big-brained people, so I must be the smooth-brained one here. That's all I can say. But anyway, let's read it and we'll see what you think. Maybe I'm just... I don't know. More than a few Pennsylvania voters are probably thinking, after the Senate debate last week between Democrat John Fetterman and Republican Mehmet Oz, that they would like to have other options. Pennsylvania is not the only state where a large swath of voters are dissatisfied with the nominees chosen in this year's primaries. Many Arizona voters, for example, wish Karen Taylor Robeson, rather than ultra MAGA Carrie Lake, had received that state's GOP nomination for governor. That part had nothing to do with ranked choice so far. It could have if there were more than two choices in that primary. I don't know what went on in the GOP primary in Arizona, but he's going to now move on to Alaska. Alaska's new voting system, in which, pay attention, because here's the actual flaw. The actual flaw is not in the ranked choice portion. It's not just ranked choice. There's a poison pill, in which the top 4 candidates in a non-partisan primary, there is the flaw, my dear sirs. Advance to the general election, where ranked choice voting permits voters to indicate their preference amongst all 4 candidates. Not all candidates. There is the flaw. Shows a way out of this predicament. If Pennsylvania used Alaska's system, the November choice for senator there would include not just Fetterman and Oz as the winners of their respective partisan primaries, but also Connor Lamb and David McCormick as the runner-up in each of these races. See, he's advocating for top X because he doesn't like who was chosen in the primary. In Arizona, New Hampshire, North Carolina, and elsewhere, Alaska's system similarly would have added alternatives that include non-MAGA Republicans. That's not the point of ranked choice voting in a general election. He's really advocating for top X. Okay. But before Pennsylvania, and I wouldn't have been so annoyed with this article if he said Alaska's ranked choice top 4 ranked choice voting system is flawed. But he makes it like this is what ranked choice voting is. He hasn't even explained here at all that this top X thing got thrown into the mix. And they are trying to bring this to Colorado, which would fuck over all minor parties here by forcing us all into a quote-unquote non-partisan top 5, top 4 primary. It's just a way to defang ranked choice from having minor party candidates have a chance. Make no doubt about it. But before Pennsylvania or any other state embraces Alaska's system, there's an important detail that needs to be fixed. Alaska's special election in August for the House of Representatives was heralded as a triumph for ranked choice voting. No, it wasn't. Ranked choice voting advocates were very upset that it got mixed with top 4. Because MAGA favorite Sarah Palin, a personification of polarization, could not attract enough second-choice votes from moderate Republican Nick can't pronounce his name, supporters to win. Notice the problem here? In the general, you had 2 Republicans. That's the fatal flaw. We'll get back to this. That's true. But the way Alaska uses ranked choice voting also caused the defeat of Bajik, whom most Alaska voters preferred to Democrat Mary Peltola, the candidate who ended up winning. This anomalous outcome, contrary to the principle that the majority's preference should prevail, would be easily remedied by one chance. You can't compare. If most Alaska voters preferred that candidate to Mary Peltola, then Mary Peltola wouldn't have won. The other candidate wouldn't have. Again, he's envisioning some kind of Condorcet race. Okay. The key to ranked choice voting is that a voter lists the candidates in order of preference, starting with their favorite rather than naming just that favorite. In plurality elections, people generally aren't naming their favorite. They're naming the one they hate least. That doesn't mean it's their favorite. The problem in Alaska and other ranked choice systems now in use, other ranked choice systems now in use do not parrot. Some do. Most of them do not pair it with top X. He seems to be unaware of this, and I just don't get it because these are very accomplished authors. From Maine to San Francisco is the rule for eliminating candidates when no one gets a majority of first-place votes. By tweaking this rule, Alaska's system would become more palatable to Republicans and Democrats alike, as if they're the only ones that exist. Fuck you. And more likely to be adopted across the country. There's more than just Republicans and Democrats, my big-brained colleagues. Bajik was eliminated because he had the fewest first-place votes. No, he wasn't. He actually didn't have the fewest first-place votes. Okay, I'm just going to have to assume they were in a hurry to write this article because there's so much wrong so far, and I'm not misunderstanding it. He wasn't eliminated in the first round, which would be the person who had the fewest first place votes. It was top 4. They've dealt with Sarah Palin, Nick Bajik, and Mary Peltola. That only adds up to 3. Oh, they're forgetting a libertarian that did advance, and he's just pretending like this person didn't exist. The person who got the fewest first place votes that was eliminated in the first round was the libertarian, not Nick Bajik. So he wasn't eliminated because he had the fewest first place votes. The libertarian was. But the flaw in this outcome and why Republicans have reason to be resentful is that a majority of voters would have preferred Bajik had the race come down to a head-to-head matchup against either Peltola 52% to 48%, not sure where they're getting these percentages from, or Palin 61% to 39%. He lost only because it was a 3-way race. It was a 4-way race. You said that earlier, but you're just pretending like the libertarian didn't exist. And the reason it was a 3-way race with 2 Republicans that ended up in an odd way splitting the Republican vote is because of top 4. That is the flaw, not ranked choice voting. When you have partisan registration in your state, to have more than one candidate in the general election from that party. That is the flaw. The Democrat won because the Democratic, either they just didn't have another Democrat running in the primary. We're going to go look at that. Or the Democrat Party machine was smart enough there to discourage the running of another Democrat candidate so that there was only one Democrat to choose from, but two Republicans. That is the flaw. Are you that obtuse? Do you think the results would have been the same if there were two Democrats? No. The Democrats played it smart, either through smart luck or smart tactics. This is inevitable in top X races. And if they had run another Democrat, there wouldn't have been a Libertarian. This is just another way to just make the duopoly flood the general election even more. This angers me so much that so much got wrong here. And people are just going to swallow this because they don't understand how it works. Okay, now here's their solution, which just seems like barking moon battery to me. And now I don't know. I'm reversing it. I don't care how accomplished they are. They're the smooth-brained ones here. Call it total vote runoff. I prefer to call it bullshit. But call it what you want. Potato, potato. A candidate's total votes in such a system would be determined by the number of other candidates he or she is ranked above. For example, when a candidate is ranked first on a ballot in an election involving 3 candidates, then this first choice candidate is ranked above 2 other candidates and gets 2 votes from this ballot. 1 person, 1 vote. You are sneaking in cumulative voting, some weird kind of cumulative voting. When that same candidate is ranked second on another ballot, the candidate is favored over only 1 other candidate and would receive only 1 vote from that ballot. So some candidates get 1 vote, but other candidates get 2 votes. So it's theoretically possible you have 2 voters, 1 of those voters gets 2 votes, and 1 of those voters only gets 1. And this seems constitutional to you. Got it. Using this method, we can identify the number of ballots on which each of Alaska's 3 candidates was ranked first. I'm thinking this is where they got those percentages from, which means they just, and I'm not sure, I'm just guessing because they don't say where they got those percentages from, that they just drew a circle. In other words, they assumed their conclusion, then pointed to their assumption as proof of their conclusion. And the circle goes round and round. How round is your circle? Now check this out. Using this method, we can identify the number of ballots on which each of Alaska's 3 candidates was ranked first. There were only 3 candidates in this election. No, there weren't! You fucking assholes! There was a Libertarian! There were 4 candidates in this election! Fuck you! I'm definitely not going to be monetized. If you feel my anger and my pain, all super chats matter, because there is no way I'm getting ad revenue from this, because I am steamed. You notice I've done a lot better about cussing, but I want to throw something. I already read this. God. I feel better. Yeah. That's where they got their percentages from their conclusion. At least looking at their little chart. I'm not the greatest math person, but and he even admits it. Using their system, first place votes get counted twice. Okay. Oh, God. It said Republicans should like total vote runoff because its procedure would help ameliorate the candidate quality problem that plagues their party. Now, that's a problem they need to solve within their party, not by screwing third parties. If they want to keep screwing themselves, that's their problem. The lesson of Alaska's special election is not to abandon ranked choice voting, as some have misguidedly charged, but instead to improve it. But your improvement is abandoning it, because what you just described is not ranked choice voting. It's a weird new form of cumulative voting that uses ranking, but it's not ranked choice voting, which means something. It's to abandon top 4 and go back to partisan primaries. And perhaps use ranked choice in the partisan primaries. Okay, now we can throw this one. Wish had a little more weight to it. Now I want to show you. So we're going to the house. I can't, hold on here. I didn't print out the right thing. See full race results. I didn't print that out. Let me see if we can find this. Otherwise, anyway. But this does give me I want to look up here. Oh, thank you so much, Dave Davis. Yes, I think that would be illegal. But these are one of the authors is a constitutional law person. That's why I'm thinking, what am I missing here? So Alaska, because I it had a pull down that I didn't hit the pull down when I printed this. Special election ranked. No, I don't want ranked choice. Special election results, I guess. I wanted to pull up. Maybe this will be a good one. Oh, God, my eyesight is so bad right now. I can't find what I am looking for. You know, I'm getting conflicting information. And I might actually owe these guys an apology. Because I am seeing conflicting information. But I saw a debate with the top 4 that had the Libertarian there. But I'm looking at some other data which says the Libertarian didn't make it. Huh. Not that that would have made a difference in the analysis. The problem isn't that ranked choice isn't the problem. It was the top 4. But how could you have top 4 and just have 3? 4 would have to advance from the primary. But I'm looking on Wikipedia here, and it is claiming the Libertarian was eliminated in the primary, but I saw another article. So I might have to take back all of my getting all lathered up. Hold on here. Let's look this up, because I did earlier, and I heard from the ranked choice voting people here in Colorado that the Libertarian advanced. Let me see here. Look it up. I'm going to look him up on Ballotpedia. The ranked choice system. Yeah, it says round 3. So let me read this. I'm looking up on Ballotpedia. Let's see. Was won by Mary Patola in round 3. The results of round 3 are displayed below. Nonpartisan primary for I might owe them an apology. It might not have been the Libertarian who advanced. It was 3 Republicans, which makes it even worse. Where? Oh my God, I've been getting conflicting information. But anyway, so I'll give them some of their brain ridges back and say that was my mistake. Man, screwed myself out of monetization for nothing. But thank you, Dave Davis, helped me out. Because according to Ballotpedia, the top 4 were Tara Sweeney, Republican, Nicholas Bajik, Republican, Sarah Palin, Republican, and Mary Patola, Democrat. Now, why didn't he note that but for top 4? Because I'm looking at these numbers. In the top 4 primary, Sarah Palin had 57,693. Nicholas Bajik had 50,021. Tara Sweeney had 7,195. Why aren't you making the argument that it was potentially Tara Sweeney? That would have put them super close. Interesting. Yeah, you have Chris. Dave, I've seen conflicting information, but I'm looking at Ballotpedia, and Ballotpedia has Tara Sweeney as 4th, not Chris Bai. So I don't know who's right here, but I legitimately thought Chris Bai advanced. I'm going to try to find that email, because I also got an email from a ranked choice group that said a Libertarian did advance. So, let me try to look up his name. Okay, let me see here. I can't find it now. Yeah, Nathan says Chris advanced too. So I don't feel bad, but I don't think that's so clear, because I'm telling you, Wikipedia and Ballotpedia says Chris didn't advance. So I don't know what's correct. That was kind of a side tangent anyway, because the issue here, and if he didn't advance, it actually proves my point even better about how Top X generally screws third-party candidates. It's not impossible for third-party candidates to advance, but they very rarely do. See, I've got another article here. I'm going to see what this one says. Hold on. I got to get up to the screen. Okay. Okay, I found an article here that mentions somebody else that says that Sweeney didn't advance. It said that there was another Democrat or former, no, he's still a Democrat. He was just a former Democratic candidate who dropped out of the race, and his name was Mr. Gross, and it said he came too close to August special general election, and they refused to allow fifth place Tara Sweeney. There is so much conflicting information here. But because of this conflicting information, I take back all of that yelling and screaming that I did about the libertarians like to yell and scream about them not mentioning the libertarian. It's really unclear. It might have been a three-way race. But that, of course, then throws a whole other wrinkle into it. The point is, it's the Top X that's the problem, not ranked choice. The minute you combine Top X, nonpartisan, open primary, you've just defeated the whole purpose of ranked choice. Because what happens when you have Top X? See, the purpose of ranked choice is to allow people to have the opportunity to vote for the candidate of their choice without worrying about voting for the lesser of two evils type of thing. But if their candidate can't even make it to the general because they were eliminated in an open primary in which the third party people are always going to be outnumbered by the duopoly, that is even worse. Nathan, can you send me a link or something? Because this is so confusing. Let me show you this article. I want you guys to see what I'm seeing. My God, is this confusing? Let me show you here. And I thought he advanced because I saw a picture and I was going to download it of those four debating. Why would those four be debating? But anyway, look here. If you look at the third column over, it's where you can't see my cursor, but if you look third column over, second paragraph, where it starts, because Mr. Grosch's departure came too close to the August special. Isn't that insane? And then, do I still have Ballotpedia up? Because I'd like to show you guys that. Let me stop this screen share. And go back to here. Yeah, look here. Now I'm going to pull up Ballotpedia and show you this. Here's showing the primary, and it has Mary, Sarah, Nicholas, and Tara. Has Chris by after Tara Sweeney. So this is super, super confusing. So I conditionally... Okay, I sent a link. Okay, let me see. What email address did you send it to? My Karen Ann Harlos one? Let me see. I don't have it yet. Or did you send it to Pink Flame of Liberty? Where did you send it, Dave? I know this is a rabbit trail because my whole point is it's that the top X, but I want to give you an example. So when you have top X, say you're in Denver County, with the whole point of ranked choice being that you can vote for the candidate that you actually, vote your conscience type thing. You have no chance to even vote your conscience if your candidate has absolutely zero chances of being on the general ballot. And if you're in a county or area or state or whatever it might be, I was using Denver County as an example, that is heavily dominated by one of the duopoly parties. And in Denver, it is as Democrat as the day is long. The Republicans have no reason to go to the general election in November because there will not even be a Republican on the ballot. Not that I'm crying tears for Republicans. I am just talking in general. And then in really conservative Weld County, God, that name triggers me. In Colorado, they're never going to have a Democrat on the ballot. And for the Libertarians, we'll never have a Libertarian on the ballot. Okay, awesome. Dave Davis says Sweeney subsequently withdrew, meaning by the 5th place miniature advance. Okay, I'm glad I'm not crazy. So, do I now need to withdraw my withdrawal of my withdraw? That's what she said. 'Tis what she proclaimed. Anybody who watches me, follows me on Facebook, knows what I'm referring to. But interesting. Okay, let me put my chat widget back up. The problem is Top X. Top X is a poison pill. I'm convinced. Can I prove it? No. And I do have some contrary evidence for a minority. But I'm convinced that the big money behind Top X is specifically designed to keep voting reform from happening by totally poison pilling any meaningful voting reform and causing crap like what happened in Alaska. What happened in Alaska is the fault of Top 4. It's not the fault of ranked choice voting. The big money behind Top X, I can't prove it, but it's my firm belief that they are just saboteurs of alternative voting. Now, there are people, and I think they're in the minority, but I had one of them as a guest on my show, a libertarian guy, who, for their own reasons, believe that top whatever is a good idea. And they believe it in good faith. But I think those people are in the extreme minority. And I'll give you one of his arguments. And I wish I could remember his name. You could go on my channel and search for Top 2, because he was one of the people that helped to get Top 2. I think it was in California, but it might have been Washington. And the reason why he thought Top 2 was good for minor party candidates, and I think this is a sneaky way to be allegedly good for minor party candidates, is he would say, if you can mobilize your base, there's lower voter turnout in a primary, and a libertarian can get snuck in a primary with low voter turnout if you're able to turn out the libertarians. That's playing games. That's not the way to do it. But that is their good faith reason for supporting Top 2. It's not to screw third parties, and it's not to screw alternative voting systems. But the millions that are behind these Top X jungle primaries, it is to screw ranked choice or approval or whatever other alternative voting system there might be. But, and Dave says, I'm gonna put you. Let me see if I'm gonna put your comment on the screen because it didn't appear here, so that everyone can see it. Where Dave said Sweeney subsequently withdrew, meaning by the 5th place finisher advanced. There is all kinds of contrary data out there. You saw what Ballotpedia said. Normally, Ballotpedia is pretty reliable. And for things like this, Wikipedia is usually reliable. Wikipedia might not be so reliable on things that are opinion, but on things that are like objective facts, something happened or it didn't happen, like, I don't know, they're usually pretty good. So this whole thing is like a huge informational mess. So even though I might legitimately have been able to curse out those guys, if they were confused, I kind of don't blame them, because I have every motivation to want to put the libertarian out there, and I was getting confused with all this contrary information. I showed you the screenshot from Ballotpedia, though. That's crazy. Okay. I showed you the screenshot of the primary, which showed that Sweeney was in the primary. I have it still here. I don't know what page you're looking on. I'm looking on Chris Bye's page. Let me show you where I got it from. Because when you're dealing with wikis, they can be edited inconsistently. But let me put this widget down. So I went to the page on Chris Bye, and so I don't know what page you're on Ballotpedia, but here's the primary. Oh, I see. Because up here, it doesn't show Sweeney. I gotcha. But let's see. Let's go back to what Wikipedia said. Because I want to show you what Wikipedia said. I'm trying to find the Wikipedia article now. Alaska. No, let's look up Alaska special election. Alaska special election 2022. See, look here on my screen. It only shows these 3. And if you go down here to Chris Bye on Wikipedia, eliminated in primary. So I can see why people are getting confused. Let's see what it says about Sweeney. It has her as eliminated in primary too. Where does it say advanced? Look, advanced to general election. It only shows 3 people. It only shows 1, 2, 3. So there is a lot of contrary information out here. And if this is incorrect, someone needs to go edit Wikipedia. I don't edit Wikipedia anymore. But I want to try to find that other article I wanted to share with you guys to kind of put a bow on this about going back to Roberts with the flaw that they noted in ranked choice voting when you're comparing it to repeated balloting, not when you're comparing it to plurality. So let me see if I can find this article. It's from John Caldera, I believe, Colorado ranked choice voting. No, I can't find the article. I can't pull up Facebook here. He's a big approval voting fan, and I'm fine with that. That's another alternative voting system. I think it's inferior to ranked choice. I'm trying to think of what the name of the article was. And I know it was in a Facebook group, but I can't pull up my Facebook account here because I don't know the password, but I'm going to see if it's a public group. It's I'm searching for it. I wish I had brought that article. No, that Facebook group doesn't want to load. Let's give it... Nope, it doesn't want to load. Well, maybe we'll cover that article in another show, because I do like talking about ranked choice. But let me see, where does he write? John Caldera column. Let me see, because I know this just came out. Yes, I found it. Okay, great. All right, I'm going to pull this up. Well, I'm not going to pull it up, I don't think. Well, maybe I will, because I got to get so close to the screen to read this because of my terrible eyesight. So let's look at where he got very confused. Okay, I can read it here. So it's John Caldera. The name of the article is Moving Forward in a Post-Republican Colorado. And he says... Moses wandered the desert for 40 years. Looks like the Colorado Republican Party may do the same. And by the way, John Caldera, though he's a Republican, has been very friendly to libertarians. He's one of the people that run the Independence Institute in Denver, and they let us use their facilities for our monthly board meetings. So if you've ever watched the Colorado board meetings on YouTube, and you're like, oh, that's a pretty nice place they're meeting, we get to use it for free. So he's very friendly to libertarians. Approval voting, which he supports. The guy who does the approval voting effort here in Colorado, there's actually an approval voting party. He's a libertarian. I mean, he's not a registered libertarian because he has to be registered approval voting party, but he's a libertarian, if you get my drift. So anyway, I just want to say this isn't a hostile guy. It says, that doesn't mean conservative, libertarian, and limited government policies can't advance while the state GOP stares at its navel for a generation. The Boot Barn Rebellion that happened the other week was to be expected. Hardcore Colorado Trumpy Republicans rallying outside a Boot Barn store near the state GOP headquarters blasted others in their party as whores and asswipes. You think the Libertarian Party gets spicy? That's pretty spicy. If only their Trumpy candidates won the primaries, Colorado Republicans would have won the last election. And the initiative to legalize psychedelic mushrooms passed just a few weeks before. These are frustrated people. They love this state and country, but if their candidate can't win in an open primary, they can't win in an open general election. We have open primaries in Colorado, by the way. Minor parties get to opt out. Hate open primaries. I don't understand the entitled mindset that people have. They think you don't want to register with a party, but you get to select their nominee. I cannot even imagine the sense of entitlement with that. There shouldn't be taxpayer-funded primaries to begin with. We didn't used to have them forced on us in Colorado. The parties could choose to... We were under a caucus system. That's what we should go back to. That's a whole other thing. Fucking hate open primaries. I'm glad libertarians get to opt out of it, but it's just ridiculous that we have more, like the independent voters, so non-party, not registered with any party in Colorado. The numbers of those are going through the roof, yet they get to choose partisan candidates. If you want to choose the Republican candidate or the Democrat candidate, join the fucking parties. God, I would lose my shit if independents got to choose the Libertarian candidate. I'm not carrying any torch for the Republicans or Democrats. I'm being empathetic, going, I know how I would feel if libertarians were forced to allow people who can't be bothered to join the party to have a stake in who we're choosing as our nominee in the primary. Oh, God, I hate open primaries. Okay, here's a very possible future. The Boot Barn Rebels might elect a new slate of hardcore GOP Central Committee members this spring who then close their primaries. And there's a way around it. I don't even want to get into it. It's easy for minor parties. Nathan, you are correct. You guys are just screwed over in Arizona. It's absolutely screwy. I can't. I know. They allow you to have an open primary. I mean, a closed primary, but you still have to get signatures from people who have absolutely no stake in your party. Okay. Meaning that only those who go to the caucuses system and onto the state assembly will choose which Republicans get on the general election ballot. Yes, that's the way it should be. And any person who's a member of the Republican Party should have an opportunity to participate. But not independents. When you choose to be independent, you don't get to vote for a partisan nominee. That's the choice you make. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Meaning they disenfranchise nearly a million Republicans and more than 1 million unaffiliated voters who won't be allowed to vote in a GOP primary. While all Republicans should be able to vote in a GOP primary. I don't know what he's talking about because I don't know about the bylaws of the Republican Party here, and I'm not as familiar with major party law here as I am with minor party law. But the answer to that is to allow all Republicans to vote in the GOP primary, but not independents. The answer isn't to open it up to the whole frickin' wide world. Meaning Republicans will have a very Trumpy, stolen election, hardcore candidates in the general election who will get completely, utterly, stupendously demolished in this very blue Colorado. And I say this as a guy who proudly voted for Trump. In other words, the total extinction of the Republican Party in Colorado will come even faster. It's already here. Colorado's a blue state now. We have some red counties, but it's pretty much a blue state. Sorry, Dave, that I'm ranting, but this is a subject that I love. That might not be a bad thing. Colorado has been turning into an unaffiliated state. Yeah, we have a lot of unaffiliateds here. Speeding up the inevitable will only make us conservatives and libertarians face reality sooner. Do not lump us in with you guys in this column here, dude, because no. Democrats are wrong to think that unaffiliated means Colorado is turning into an elitist socialist state. Yes, this state is wildly socially liberal, but it might still be a fiscally conservative one? Not really. My 2 income tax cuts passed in a row by overwhelming majorities. They were tiny, tiny cuts, and I'll take them, but that hardly makes Colorado fiscally conservative. The only way progressive... And we get screwed out of our Tabor refunds. It's a whole other thing. Anyone in Colorado is feeling my pain right now. The only way progressives can get large tax increases passed is to call them fees or do it without voter consent or sneak it under screwing us out of our Tabor. Like happened in Douglas County. We got a statewide Tabor refund. We didn't get it in Douglas County. There is finally a ripe market for a third way in Colorado beyond just Republican and Democrat and traditional voting. I want to offer 2 warnings before we go third way crazy. First, beware of new political movements that are we are not them parties. Voters are so sick of R&Ds that they will welcome the first parties of kinda conservative Dems and kinda liberal Republicans. In other words, parties that stand for nothing but fence-straddling, principle-less happy talkers. Oh, you mean the Forward Party? I got it. The leaderless party. But we're not Republicans or Democrats, but something in between. And that is why that kind of messaging sucks for libertarians. And he's not speaking of libertarians here. Again, John Caldera is very friendly to libertarians. These aren't political parties. They are bad compromises. These are the bad marriages your mother warned you about. Let's remember the late Stephen Covey's rules. Start with the end in mind. A true third party should have an ending vision, something unifying. Well, the Libertarian Party certainly has an ending vision, the statement of principles. For me, it would be the Fiscal Sanity Party, a party that believes in low taxation. How about no taxation? But I'll settle for low at this point. Property rights, civil liberties, and the rule of law. Other things we can argue about later. And now here's where he's going to get to the alternative voting. Next warning, be suspicious of ranked choice voting. This is where you and I part ways, John. Ranked choice voting, otherwise known as instant runoff voting, not always. God, these people who write about ranked choice don't even have the terminology down. And even though, like in that one video I did with answers from Joe, where, I was able to give him a pass because in other countries, the terminology is a little less fuzzy. In Colorado, it's very damn clear. We have it in our statutes. Is being sold as a way to vote for more than one candidate. My first choice is Bob, but if I can't have him, I'd vote for Sue. It's a complicated system. No, it's not. Basically several different elections, but you can only vote in the first election without any knowledge of who all your choices might be in the next election. So that is the where I said was the valid criticism that was in Roberts, but it's only a valid criticism against repeated balloting, not against other systems. And he's doing a bait and switch here. He might not be doing it on purpose. It says, we've seen how it ties the hands of voters. No, it doesn't. And comes up with perverted results. No, it doesn't. And an overwhelmingly Republican Alaska, ranked choice managed to get a Democrat elected. It wasn't ranked choice, John. It was top 4. Please, God, I should just sit down and talk with him because he's a good guy. I'm not going to yell and scream at him. He's a good guy. The simpler and less corruptible multiple candidate system is called approval voting. No, it's not less corruptible. The minute people figure out bullet voting, you have just screwed the pooch. Okay. So, yeah. But I'm sure he understands us. We just disagree. But yeah, John Caldera, as far as Republicans go, is a good guy here in Colorado. Has been very kind to libertarians. Okay, that's going to be it. So hopefully I got RCV out of my system for a while now, even though I just thoroughly did not monetize this video. So thank you, Dave. Oh. Anyway, and if Ofer Nave is here, I realize I spelled your name wrong in my closing credits and have you as Offer. I'm sorry. I'll fix that. I didn't have a chance to fix it, but at least you're all for some reason, out of my patron tiers, you picked the most unusual one, which is so strange. So you're the only one right now in the I Pink and I Know Things tier, which is my $20 a month tier. So listen, I really could use y'all's support. If you're not a patron of the show, maybe join Ofer Nave and also be part of I Pink and I Know Things. So how's that for a promo? Patreon.com/Pink Flame of Liberty. All right, y'all. I hope you have an awesome night. I'm going to go pink and know things, I guess. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to talk to you tomorrow. This is a very busy committee season for me right now because the Colorado Convention's coming up April 1st. I'm the chair of the National Bylaws Committee. I'm the chair of the Colorado Bylaws Committee. I should be I Pink, therefore I am. Hey, I'll make that tier. If somebody wants a custom amount and be I Pink, therefore I am, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'm such a whore. I'll do it. So what was I saying? Oh, so I'm the Colorado Bylaws Chair. I'm on the Colorado Platform Committee. I'm on the Colorado Convention Committee. I'm the National Bylaws Chair. I'm on the National Convention Committee. Those convergent worlds only really converge for 2 months because our deadline for Colorado bylaws and platform reports is February 18th. So I'm really busy for 2 months. I'm really busy between now and February 18th, basically. And then the rest of the year, it's back to normal. So these next 2 months, I'll probably be closer to an every other day streaming, but I try to do it every day. So depending on how long the Colorado Platform Committee lasts tomorrow, we'll decide as to whether or not I'm streaming tomorrow. All right. I hope you have an awesome night. And again, I apologize for misspelling your name, Mr. Nave. Bye-bye.
Gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in the business.